and if I will borrow your term, blessed, we feel blessed. It's quite refreshing for me also to come across, a government official who, like you, who's really sincere and sincerely working very hard to help the community that you serve. And I will need to ask you this as well. Being a Democrat, sir, two of the other two Democratic politicians are in trouble now, namely Mayor Bob Filner of San Diego and mayoral candidate Anthony Weiner in New York. What are your thoughts on what's going on right now?
These are difficult times for those two politicians. And I just hope that they will understand the pain that they are causing to not only their families but to their communities, and ask within their own heart whether or not they ought to continue. But that is a decision that they ought to make themselves. These are individuals clearly who are in trouble, and they need to seek counsel from their family, from their elders, from their religious mentor, whatever it may be, to just really ask the question, how can they better serve the people that elected them, that the people that they represent.
Should they step down?
I think that's a decision that they ought to make. The community that they represent ought to make with them. It's not an easy question. It's not an easy answer. It's a difficult one. It's a heart-wrenching one. They've worked hard to achieve what they did, and unfortunately, because of these missteps along the way, they've got to really now be held accountable, and it is something that they ought to really sit down with their constituent, with their advisors, and figure out what's the best strategy for them.
And I ask this also not because it is in the current events these days. It's also because leading me to the question that I have for you is, being an Asian American politician, you're an Asian American model. It's this responsibility to mirror your community and at the same time serve the community with integrity.
Well, I have a wife that watches over me. I've got daughters that watch over me. I have now a 6-month granddaughter that I'm sure watches over me.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and so we are a tight family, and we are very close, and we talk about a lot of issues. We support each other, and so you're absolutely right. We're all role models, and we do the best that we can. But at the end of the day, we really have to ask ourselves, if we are doing whatever we are doing, representing constituents at the local level, state level, federal level, are we doing the very best? And are we able to do the very best? And if you can't, then you ought to think about stepping aside.
Well said, sir. One thing that I like about being Asian Americans is that we are very close to our families. And I can see the way you answer the question is that it helps you govern. It helps you check yourself as well. How else is being Asian American advantageous to you in this position as a senator?
Well, I'm the only legislator in Sacramento that does not have an apartment in Sacramento. I go home every night. Wow. And when your wife asks you to take the garbage out, it does temper you somewhat. And that helps me understand and grounds me as to who I am and what I'm about. I'm just a regular individual who has this desire to be of help. And I'm not any better than anybody else, and all of my friends and neighbors and colleagues are just equal, and we're all trying to do what we can to make this world a little bit better place for our children and our grandkids.
And in the few minutes that we've been talking, it's quite inspiring, your story, the way you answer your questions. I feel the sincerity, and I know that a lot of viewers are now being inspired with the way you're answering these questions as well, being very candid with us. What do you think, what would you tell them? I know that it's not easy. You mentioned earlier to be a politician, to be a public servant, and trying to get elected, being Asian American. How would you encourage viewers out there, perhaps some of them kids, some of them parents, who could encourage their kids to follow the same steps?
Well, what I would say to parents is that I know that you never thought that your kids would be a politician. But if your kids have any desire of service to the community, you ought to be supportive, because life is short, and life is really about fulfilling dreams. So if you've got kids that have a dream to serve, you ought to then be supportive and do what you can to be of help. In these times where we don't have the ability to serve forever, that we have limited terms now, that we do need always someone to replace us. So the next generation has to step forward. And I would hope that there are many individuals coming from our own community, Filipino community, Asian American community, that will say, gee, I want to do something for my community, and I hope that the parents will support that, because by supporting their children, they are really supporting the entire community.
And at the same time, would like to remind everyone, as you said, for now you don't need to be a public official to help your community. You mentioned ways earlier on how we can help you. Perhaps we can help you with your move to honor Philip Vera Cruz and Larry Itliong. We can help you with SB 738. And how else can we help these politicians?
Well, just simply making a phone call, just writing a letter. You may not think that that is important, but we keep track of those phone calls and those letters. We know how many, we know the depth of the feelings, and so we look and we read and we listen to all the correspondence and all the phone calls that come in, and it does make a difference.
All right. Thank you so much once again, sir, and more power to you.
Thank you very much.
There you have it, our conversation with Senator Leland D. A lot of wonderful things, wonderful plans that he has for our community. And we hope, and we talked about this earlier, that as youth, you will be inspired, or if you are a parent watching us, you will inspire and encourage your kids to be in public service. Meanwhile, this has been Janelle Sawyer, Kababayan in Los Angeles. If you missed any of our interviews today or any of the segments today, log on. We are on many different social media sites, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as well. I'll see you there, all right? Meanwhile, thank you for joining us today, and I'll see you next time.